All right, we're going to get started. We're going to shift gears a little bit from smaller startup to IGT, obviously one of the larger companies in the real money gaming space. We're happy to have with us today Marcus Yoder from IGT to talk about the future of real money gaming.
Okay, great, thank you. Good morning. Everybody hear me okay? Excellent. Third day, right? I wasn't able to go to the parties last night, so hopefully everybody had a good time. Today, we're going to cover what's going on in the real world of real money gaming. Going to try to give you a perspective a little bit in terms of what's taking place in Europe, but realistically really focus on what's happening right now within the Americas, what's happening in Canada or has been happening, what's taking place within Delaware and New Jersey, the first two states to legalize, and we're deep in the process there. What's taking place in Mexico and some insight into some other Latin American countries. I run sales and business development for IGT Interactive for the Americas and for Asia Pacific. I've been with IGT for 3 years. Prior to that, I ran a consulting practice focused on the use of social media to drive new product development. Prior to that, I was a co-founder of a small startup that was kind of like an Instagram, but 6 or 7 years ago. Obviously, didn't quite make it the way Instagram made it, but it was a lot of fun. And that really gave me a good sense in terms of how you can blend consumer behavior also into kind of corporate structure, and hopefully that will come through today. And as we go through this, let's not wait for a Q&A session. Please just pop out a question if you have it as we go through it. Just to give you a little bit of background about who we are, we're a $2.1 billion casino game developer, and we do everything from casino management systems to literally creating boxes that come out of a warehouse. We have a supply chain. But then we also have our interactive division that has been around for about 12 years and have been doing mobile for 10 years. We're known for our games. Our games are typically the top performers in the online casinos around the world. And because we are a public company and because we hold over 350 licenses around the world by different gaming authorities, our compliance policy is very, very strict and very tight. And that really allows us to move forward very strongly into certain markets when they regulate. And I think you heard before from my colleagues Charles Harper and Robert Melendrez that we do have the #1 social casino in the world at this time, at least. To give you a sense of Interactive, we're a global organization, about 480 people. We have game development. Our headquarters is here in San Francisco. We've got the same kind of game developers that you may have within your shop, right? Guys showing up, flip-flops, hanging out, Nerf guns. We're making games. That's the biggest part of what we do. Beyond that, then really the execution of the company comes down to just data centers. And so we have to put our data centers typically into a jurisdiction in order to be able to serve that jurisdiction. So coming out of Alderney and Gibraltar, we're actually able to serve into legalized jurisdictions in Europe. Canada, where it's actually illegal on a federal level, but legal on a state or province level, we had to put one data center to serve in Canada. Mexico, the same thing. And now moving into Delaware and New Jersey, we have to put a data center inside the state of New Jersey, not just inside the state, but also inside Atlantic City, not just within Atlantic City, but right into the casino premise. So when you think about software as a service and trying to go into the Amazon cloud to serve this, not quite. We're having to make a $1.2 million investment just to put our server stack into a server room that needs a little improvement. It's not switch, it's not rack space, but those are the regulations that we have to adhere to them if we want to play in the business. Okay. So you probably have seen a version of this slide over and over and over again. I think Melissa Blau put up a slide like this. In general, we're looking at the market at about somewhere 32, 36 billion. We don't have an absolutely accurate count, but one of the things that you will see is that this is betting, this is sports betting. Roughly, that's going to be about 45% of the actual revenue to the operators. Operators would be the casinos, the sports books, followed by roughly 15 to 18% in casino. Then poker, bingo, skill, and state lotteries, at least online, kind of make that up. This is for the entire world. This is for black markets such as South Africa, Australia, Washington State, as an example. gray markets where they don't really know if it's illegal or not, and then the explicitly regulated markets such as the provinces in Canada and what we're doing right now in Delaware and New Jersey. It's a big market, right? So obviously you wouldn't be here. Oop, did I go too fast? So let's talk a little bit about Canada. Canada is a fantastic market. So there are, quote, illegal operators serving Canadian players. But what the provinces have done is said, okay, the lotteries already own casinos, land-based casinos. Why don't we make it so that they have a monopoly and we can get the most revenue back into the provincial governments? And so that's what each one of them has done, with British Columbia being the first one, followed by Lotto Quebec, and now Ontario, which is the largest province and most populous and frankly highest GDP. That's coming online within the next 6 to 8 months. This is just an example of what the site looks like for British Columbia. One of these rotating ads, basically their big marketing message is, hey, we're legal, right? And frankly, that's worked. They tell us that they've been able to garner about 50% of the online players within British Columbia. Because that player will come and say, all right, I'm either going to play here with the lottery, and if I lose, I lose. If I win, great. But if I lose, my money is going right back into my own schools. And if I have an issue, there's a lottery office in every single town of British Columbia. I can go in, speak to a customer service agent, and deal with my issue. If I'm playing with an offshore operator out of Ecuador or out of Costa Rica, where am I going to go, right? And so that's a lot of the appeal in terms of people switching to these explicitly legal and authorized sites. Kind of a weird slide, but one of the big thoughts that's out there, especially from the land-based casinos side, is, well, is this going to cannibalize my land-based business? I've spent millions of dollars in terms of creating these fantastic palaces of gambling. What's going to happen? Well, what we saw as British Columbia opened up their play now, starting with poker, then moving to casino, and then adding more and more games. Frankly, this is where IGT games came in. For their land-based casino growth, all boats are rising. And that's something that we've also seen borne out in different surveys that we've done, where we've asked a predominantly online player and a predominantly land-based player, if it's legal, will you play more? And the answer so far has been yes, and that kind of bears this out. We're also seeing that, and I think you heard from Charles's discussion and Robert's discussion, and frankly, I think everybody who develops a game understands that the content really does drive the play. When you can have that same game be online as it is in the land-based casino, it's seen as a real game, right? So if somebody walks through a casino or they know that their great Aunt Millie plays Cleopatra, when they see it online, they're like, oh, that's a real slot game. I'll put 20 bucks in, let's play that and see what comes out. So this concept of being able to advertise online about a game and then within the casino, the same game is driving gameplay. What's going on in Mexico? This is a new site. Basically, within Mexico, any operator who has a current land-based operator license can apply to the gaming authority to say, we would like to go online, and then they either get a permission, yes, no. So we're working with one of our operators to bring this new-to-the-world site, greenplay.com. And in this instance, only the games that can be played in a casino can be played online. So if it doesn't exist within the casino, for instance, you can't play 5-card or Texas Hold'em in a Mexico casino, so therefore it's not allowed online. Mobile is incredibly critical, as I think we've all seen from the casual gameplay, but now we're starting to see, at least within Europe and specifically the UK, roughly 50% of the revenue going into the operators is coming from mobile. The gameplay sessions are shorter, roughly about 12 minutes as opposed to about 40 minutes when they're playing online. And the average wager is roughly 4 to 5 times what the wager is on online. Okay, any thoughts, questions? Yeah.
Yeah, can you show that cannibalization slide to show the
Yeah, I'd like to, yeah. He's got some opinions, doesn't he? Okay, so then what's taking place in the United States? 3 years ago, everybody was amped up, man. Federal poker is going to go through. It's going to be this fantastic thing. Let's all get excited about it. And then just the bills just wouldn't go through, right? And then California. Man, California is the biggest, the single biggest state online poker market currently, even though it's illegal. And that's fantastic. Why can't we go after that market? Well, we've got the racetracks, and we've got the tribes, and we've got the governor, and we've got the lottery. And it just takes a long time to get all of those groups together to bring it together. I do a lot of work with tribal casinos, and as much as there's fear from land-based casinos in terms of just losing their business, when you're talking about going online, the tribes are fearing losing sovereignty, right? So it's even that much more emotional, right? So if you're in California, you read a lot about what's going on, just know that that's kind of in the background. This is an estimate. We do a lot of our estimates from a company called H2 Gaming Capital. It's the best data that we have out there, so we go with it. And if you look at across the different states, if we have Delaware, Nevada, and New Jersey, then the total market across the board is basically what you see here. But there are going to be different variations. So for instance, bingo will not be allowed online in New Jersey. The church lobby was too strong, and they didn't want that revenue stream going away from having lobby bingo within in the church environment. Sports betting will not be allowed in New Jersey. It is allowed in Delaware, and it is allowed in Nevada. So there are going to be different offerings in terms of what you can do within each state. Let's look at the different opportunities, right? So Delaware, adult population 500,000 people. Not a lot of liquidity, not a lot of people. The state lottery actually determines what's legal, and there are 3 racinos who are, quote, lottery agents, and then that's how they're actually to go forward. In this process, the lottery decides who can be a provider and then allows the 3 racinos to go online or not, right? So it's all very much a monopoly, but then spread out between these 3 casinos. In this case, actually, only the personal data has to remain within the state. We can actually serve from outside of the state. We can actually serve from outside the country, from Gibraltar. So that was actually pretty surprising. But I think they realized that it's a small state. We're not going to force people to make that kind of investment. Strict probity. Probity is this concept of, are you fit to do business with the state? Are you fit to do business as a representative of the casino gaming industry, right? So when we go into any form of a new jurisdiction, we actually have to go through the process of company background checks, individual officer background checks. This is police records. The FBI gets involved. The IRS gets involved. They look into your shorts to see if you are worthy to actually provide this service to the state, basically trying to keep out the mob.
Has that RFP come out yet?
Yes, it's closed. Yep. Games as an overall provider, and then the technology platform is from 888. Games owns WMS, so WMS will have games eventually, and then we were selected as well as a game provider, IGT. Yeah. So target is September 27. It's kind of hard to get there, but we'll see. New Jersey, on the other hand, adult population of 5.5 million. Obviously, Atlantic City, big history of gambling, so there's an orientation there. Any licensed operator in Atlantic City will also be able to get a license to go online, but it will cost them $650,000 to do so. We as providers also have to be licensed, and then each one of our games has to go through testing by what's called the New Jersey Department of Gaming Enforcement. These guys are actually a division of the state police. We've had meetings with them where the representatives come in and they're packing heat, right? And as you walk through their offices, they've got kind of a museum, if you will, of all the different devices that they've busted people on, through the years since Atlantic City opened. Different vests, like with the the little thing that'll extend out an ace. So it's kind of interesting, and these guys take it very, very seriously, right? So that's been kind of entertaining. Strict probity as well. We certainly hope so. There are certain operators that we don't want to see come into the United States because, frankly, they've broken the law. Others, it's a little bit gray, and they may be able to come in. The target here is November 2013 as well. So then who's next, right? We've got a lot of action out there, right? But, as a bill is recommended, it'll die in committee, or it'll stay in committee and stay in draft. And then it may be poker only, or it's poker plus lottery, maybe online. So you've just got this hodgepodge of potential legislation that's out there. And Hawaii has introduced legislation, I think, like 5 different times. Louisiana, the legislative study bill has been enacted. So there's a lot of activity. And this is really, if you read in the papers or online, this is the big discussion. Should each state be able to go forward? Is that going to cause too much of a quilt or patchwork quilt of legislation so people don't really know what to do? Or is it just better to go ahead and legalize it federally and then go from there? Thank you. Just an example of when we look at states, we look at population and then try to see where things are going. Back to this concept, I think what will happen is the rest of the states are going to wait until New Jersey goes live, maybe give them 6 months to see what the run rate is, and then different pieces of legislation in New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Ohio, Pennsylvania, basically kind of think of a circumference around New Jersey. I think they'll push it through if they succeed, if they see success in New Jersey, or at least trending up and to the right. So that's what's going on in the United States, in the Americas right now. We do think it's a very significant time period in this market. Content is truly king. These are all the titles that are known and loved on the casino floor. We have all of these online. We're taking all of them mobile. We create new ones as well. We do a lot of work with branding. We've got a new Transformers game that's going to be really targeted towards the poker players. Monopoly, we've got 5 different Monopoly games. And then we've taken a lot of feedback in terms of how to make a good tablet experience. We used to have a spin button down here, right? And so you'd have to hold it, spin, hold it, spin. Oh, we just put it right on your thumb, right? So rapid fire, which is fun. But that's what we do. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of where things are going. We are definitely always looking for additional content. When we bring out new features into a game, they can take off. So we've got a Da Vinci Diamonds game that kind of functions like Bejeweled, where if you win, if you get a hit, the symbols that hit disappear and then you get continued play. It's almost like what takes place in Candy Crush, right? So if there are new game dynamics that game developers have, or frankly new games that you could conceptually bet on, we're always open to listening to it, and my contact information is here. So with that, we'll go with any questions or any thoughts. Yep. No. It's think of it as gambling snacking. It's on the tube waiting to go. And then also think of who's got a laptop, right? You can get a laptop or a PC for $200 or so. If you've got an iPhone, if you've got a tablet, you're already up in 1 or 2 strata in terms of personal disposable income. And we just see that the gameplay is, frankly, I think it's more enjoyable if you're on your tablet. Right?
When you have introduced a new game mechanic, do you have to go through a new certification to show legal, and how long does it take?
It depends on the jurisdiction, but yeah, we do that. It depends on the jurisdiction. We put it into a game to be tested so that we get the benefit of getting that game through. It really depends on who's doing the testing, but roughly 8 weeks to, in Canada, it may be 5 to 6 months.
I was going to ask you about, was it strong for variety, or?
Which one?
The word you were talking about up there, where strong.
Probity, yeah.
Does that benefit IGT because you have a long history of operating casinos? Like, how do new players compete with people like you who've got lots of skill and talent and experience in the legal side of things?
So there's 2 different ways. One is just to go ahead and kind of gird up thy loins and go into it. Just know it's a process, and they're going to look into your family history. If you got skeletons, be aware, right? The other way is to license content to us, or license your business concept to us. Then we would actually usher that game concept through. There is if there is a revenue share back to that provider at a certain level, then that provider still has to have some level of scrutiny. But frankly, we put our new business partners through a lot of scrutiny, pretty much the same thing that Nevada would put you through, because we can't be seen and be doing business with somebody who's not on the up and up. So we have to protect ourselves as well. Any other questions, thoughts? Yep.
Yeah. Do you use your own e-wallet, or do you use the App Store or Google Play mechanism?
So we're not there yet on, or the industry is not there yet on using the Google e-wallet.
All right.
But what happens is that an operator will choose a platform, and we refer to it as RVB, Registration, Verification, and Banking. And that's the guts, right? That's the SAP, that's the accounting, that's everything, right? All we're doing is tunneling our content onto that platform. So we're integrated on roughly 28 different platforms around the world. So for us, we don't really, quote, care what the wallet is. We just get a signal to say, this person is now wagering $1. We go to a random number generator, get the outcome, do some fun stuff on the graphics, and display a result. If they won, lost, then we send a signal back to the wallet to say, add $2 or make that $1 go away.
Right. Yeah. So my question really is, you don't have to share revenue with Apple.
No. Okay, so I'm getting the high sign. Want to thank everybody for coming, and I'll be over here if anybody has any questions.